Hi friends, Luca Storelli is here. I want to start showing you the photo reconstruction of this image. This is a brand new image from my recent series I made with Midjourney, but the most important thing in my opinion is that I can start generating images in Midjourney, but then as a photographer I want to edit the image and make it better, adding some additional elements, color correction, applying to the image my daily workflow that I use with my images. So this is the final image after some couple of actions and edits I made on this image. But let's start from the beginning. I want to show you all I did, hoping that it would be interesting for your creative process. So don't lose time. I want to start from the beginning. This is the original image I generated in Midjourney. It's quite good because everything I need is in the frame, in the composition, so editing can be really easy. I am in love from ever with cinematographic images. Images are dramatics, are really interesting, and I love to simulating the cinematic effect on my image. I love to add some additional edits to the image to make it more dramatic and cinematic as possible. So this is the first. I started from here and I have perfectly cleared the subject. I love so much the texture, the flower texture in the two kimonos, complementary colors of the dresses, so the camera from the bottom of the image, the lights coming from above. It's really interesting, and all this blue-red background is really interesting because it is complementary to the beautiful of the dresses and the flowers. So the first thing I did, I added just some additional hairs. In this case, I suppose these are not hairs because the hairs are really clear here. I don't know what exactly those flying texture probably that simulates hairs, but I don't know what they are exactly, but I imagine that I could add some details to make more realistic the subject. So I added this and this over here just to see the details. You can see here, you can see over there. In this case they are hairs, just to make more realistic the image. Also here you can see here how I made the flying hairs. It's really simple because in my palette I have a lot of brushes that you can see. In this case I used from Retouching Academy of Giulia Cosmenco. I used this hair strand sharp. This is a really useful brush that I can use when I have to draw additional hairs. Then after that I added a new adjustment layer, black and white, but the difference is that I changed the blending modes to luminosity. So normal to luminosity. Why I did that? Because as I studied with Kate Woodman and Bella Kotak, this is a great trick for change the luminosity. As you can see, the luminosity change in the image. This is really interesting because if I want, I can additionally change the luminosity of each color. Each color in the composition can be muted or empowered. So it's really interesting, and just with a click, as you can see, I can change the luminosity of the image. So after that, I started coloring the image using an action from my friend Nino Batista from Action 6 pack that I can see here. From NBP color grading tools, I use it NBP Reds Random Grad. NBP Reds Random Grad, this. Why I did that? Because if I click, you can see immediately how image change in terms of luminosity, in terms of a bit of saturation, in terms of visibility. This is the first step. Normally when I work, I don't use only a single action, but I used to mix different action because the mix of all these actions give me better results. So this is the first thing I did with MVP Reds Random Grad, one of my favorite action. We can see a level of a gradient map that I can change going here, and for example I can change the gradient, reds, blues. So just with a click I can change immediately. And then after that I use another action by Nino Batista, NBP Frey Array LUTs. Okay, now we can see another change in the image, because now it starts becoming more cinematic. What is this? In this action we can see a 3D LUT file, in this case Frey Array Kali Shade 3D LUTs. So when you use this action, you will find in your LUTs additional and different LUTs that you can choose. In this case I use this, but if you prefer you can change the LUTs. For example, look at this. Look, wow, absolutely cool. The possibilities are infinite, absolutely. Look at that, black and white, wow, more saturated. And then you can adjust with a curves adjustment layer, for example, if you want to reduce the dark tones, for example. Now, okay, I was here. Then after that, just to reduce some black tones too much visible, I added a new curves adjustment layer just to reduce just a little bit darken tones on the image. I started changing the saturation of 3 different colors. For example, here I started changing the saturation of the blue tones. You can see the difference here, more visible. Look at that. And also on the flower, on the kimono of the right model here. Then I added another hue saturation for the oranges, only for the oranges. And to do this, I went here and with the color picker I clicked on the part of the image I wanted here to change, and then Here I can change saturation of the hues, for example. And then the last color I modified is the yellow. Just a little bit. You can see the differences here on the flower, because I want to add more saturation contrast on flowers that was a part of the kimono. Okay, before and after, here. At this point I added a brown sugar matte effect to give the image a film look. In this way, what I did is to make image more cinematic, changing the balance between highlights and shadows. And then I added a new level with dodge level for make more visible the highlights in the dress, in some specific part of the dress, in this case as you can see here, and just a little bit on the face of the models. And then I used another adjustment layer with a gray level at 50% of visibility, and then I worked with here with dodge and burn tools, and what I did was to add some lights in the background and also on the texture of the dresses. Again, look at that, look at that. This is what I did. Before and after, just to add some luminosity on some part of the flowers and of the background. Then I added an anamorphic, two anamorphic effect, light effect on the background, because here it was supposed to be lights coming from the outside, so I decided to add a first anamorphic light effect with a smart object, because it was at the beginning it was really sharpened. I added a gas and blur to make more realistic the effect, and I added a second light. This was PNG I found on the internet, but really realistic because the effect is more cinematic respect the original. Okay, this is without and this is with. I prefer to make visible this effect because I love the result of the image. And then I added some additional light coming from above, just to make more visible the effect, because the light is supposed to be coming from above. On the left and on the right there are darkened parts of the image, and in the middle I can see lights coming from above. So, and the last thing I did is I added, as you can see here on the left, an amber light coming from here, where I added a mask, because this is the original and this is with the mask. So once I added to the image, I can see here the effect coming from the left, because if you remember, on the left there was an orange light coming from here. It was on the screen blending modes, because this was normal, and in screen mode you can see this. So at the end what I did is all this process to make an image starting from this to that, using 1, 2 action from Nino Batista and some local adjustment I did personally on the image, but just with these two absolutely cool action, I get the result I love. How much time I spent doing this image? I spent half an hour to do all this, because the only thing I had in my mind it was to get a cinematic effect. And then while I'm working, I was trying different action, different effect to make image more cinematic as possible. And thanks to these actions, I had the effect I wanted. This is the color grading tools by Nino. It's a set of action number 6, that I use a lot of time, because they makes more easy my coloring process. So I can save a lot of time, and all of this make my creative process really easy. I hope you will like this image, and any question you may have, you can write me, and and I will happy to answer to all your questions. So friends, have a good time, enjoy working, that's all. Have fun, my friend.